How you doing, YouTube? This is AUAG Prepper coming at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be talking about basically going over the writing on the wall and how the sun in this video that is formed into a nuke is also the sun will be in the scales of Libra, and they subliminally show this in the song. So we're gonna go over this a little bit more, just because it kind of referenced this here. We're also going to be going over Berserk ASAP, and we're going to be going over the clock that's in the song as well, and also the Olympic colors of the multi-catastrophe events, which also shows in the Illuminati card game with the Olympic colors. And we already know from the last videos that I made that each Olympic color represents basically a continent around the world, and there's going to be a multi-catastrophe event that takes place maybe not all in one day, but on a span of a month possibly, leading into tribulation. Now, another thing is that here on iPad Goat, I want to show you this real quick, but we're gonna go over this at the end of the video. You see the scorpion here. There's a scorpion tail here, and there's also the scorpion arm. You see it here, and you also see almost like the head and the body. Excuse me, and the body of a scorpion here. And you have the sun very close to the scorpion. Now remember this, because we're going to go over this again, but we're going to go into astronomy, and I'm going to go ahead and show you. I believe that what the powers that be are showing us with this imaging here is that this could be the time period when catastrophes start. And normally the sun is near Scorpio in the month of November going into early December. And what's interesting is that November 9th will be the time period when the sun is in Libra and also near Scorpio. It's also during the same time when the Mercury transitions the sun, which happens basically 13 to 14 times per 100 years, which is also another rare astronomical event. It's also the 60th year mark since Mercury transitioned the sun 60 years ago. All right, so we're going to go over a little bit about that in the near, maybe not every detail of what's going on in astronomy in the next video for sure, but definitely going to touch on a lot of stuff before this video is over. So let's go ahead and go back, and before I go back, let me just go ahead and touch on one thing. And we're going to touch on basically the tetrad red blood moons. Now, if you don't know what happened in during 2014, 2015, basically what happened in space or the heavens is that we had a tetrad red blood moon that landed on the Jewish holidays, which was Passover and Tabernacles. The tetrad red blood moons normally happen between 20 to 40 years, but the ones that land on Jewish holidays are the ones that are exceptionally rare. For example, there's only been 8 tetrad red blood moons that took place, including this one, which was 2014-2015, since Jesus. The first one basically landed during the time of Jesus' crucifixion, the first tetrad red blood moons, and they happened in the span of a 2-year process. And the one that landed on during the time of Jesus, it happened on that basically landed on Passover and Tabernacles, which was right on the crucifixion time mark. So during these points in time, each time that a tetrad red blood moon landed on the Jewish holidays and the feast days that I'm talking about, there was events that took place with either the Jews or the Christians or both. And just to give you an example, during the Spanish Inquisition, when basically Spain was persecuting the Jews, basically Christopher Columbus discovered America during the same time when the tetrad red blood moon was taking place, which happened on 1493 to 1494. It was also the same time when Spain was persecuting the Jews, the exact same time. Also, in 1949 to 1950, the Jews basically had their War of Independence, and during like roughly 333 days before the first tetrad in 1949, because their War of Independence happened in May of 1999 or 1948. During the Six-Day War, they also had a tetrad red blood moon that happened 1967, 1968. And I believe their Six-Day War took place in 1967. So this gives you an idea of the significance that basically took place. And also you had basically the wars that took place between the Arabs and Europe. which happened in 795 to 796, which basically took place during the time of the tetrarable moons. And you also had the persecution of the Christians in the Colosseum, which was the second tetrarable moon that took place after Jesus' crucifixion. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because if you add 1,503 days from this time marker, which was the last tetrarable moon, which was September 28th, 2015, you land on November 9th. It's also the same exact time period where if you add 777 days from the Revelation 12 sign, and let me go ahead and show you the Revelation 12 sign, which is also a rare astronomical event. See if I can bring it. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Was also a rare astronomical event that took place, which happens once in 7,000 years. It happened on 23rd September 2017, and the scriptures that talks about the Revelation 12 sign, which was 12, basically 1 and 2, chapters 1 and 2 in Revelation 12, or verse 1 and 2 in chapter 12 of Revelation. It basically talks about the planets that are aligning, which are basically stars. That's in the Bible. The Bible calls planets basically stars. And I'll go ahead and read it to you. It states here, "And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain, and to be delivered." And that's when Jupiter, which is also known as the king planet, and is also symbolized to be Jesus. Now, symbolism and being direct is two different things. Jupiter is obviously not Jesus. Jupiter is just a symbolism of Jesus Christ. Now, the reason why I study astronomy, because in the Bible it talks about, especially in Genesis, it talks about the heavens being used for signs for us. Basically, almost like a storytelling of what is going to take place in the future. So when you look into the heavens to basically to look for signs, that is that is completely fine to do. It's very biblical to basically do that. Now, that's only if you're interpreting the scriptures right and interpreting the signs right. And you can't just go around and basically try to make up stuff, by looking to space. You have to be basically on point and try to come up, or at least pray that you are not being guided wrongly into understanding the signs that is in heaven, if that makes sense. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on. And let me see. Let me go ahead and go back. Hopefully I'm not missing anything. Give me 1 second. Let me see. Hold on. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything before I start. Oh, okay. Yeah, I missed something. Let me go back. I got on a tangent a little bit. Sorry about that. So if you add 1,503 days to, we could type it in here. Let's go ahead and put in 9. 28th, which was the first or the last tetrarable moon. And if you add 5,000 or 1,503 days, and the reason why I'm adding this day marker is because when you look at the Hebrew gematria of this number, I believe it's the Hebrew or the Greek. Basically, it means 1,503 means a tree stump, or a stump of a tree, or almost like a tree being knocked down or cut down. That's basically what this number means. Also, 1,503 in the Bible, evil is stated or appears 1,503 times in the Bible, the word evil. So if an evil act is carried upon, 1,503 days after the last tetrarable moon, it would all basically add up. And we can go ahead and do our calculations here. And it gives us the date. And the date is November 9th, 2019. It's also the same time period of the 777 day mark from the Revelation 12 sign. And the reason why this is all important is because of this. If we go back to IPEC GOAT, we can go back to the Statue of Liberty. And I talked about this before in my last video. I just used the 1,503 day mark on a different event that wasn't proper. And it was basically the 2014 event that happened in China with the chemical explosion. And I used it on the wrong time marker. And I believe that using it on the last tetrahedral moon could be an accurate time marker and for events that are going to take place, or possibly going to take place. So let's go and go back to the Statue of Liberty. I'll show you. Here it is. Now, what's interesting is that iPad Go depicts the Statue of Liberty almost like a tree. And you can even see some of the roots here. And I talked about this in my last video. And if you play it slow, and I'm just going to play a little regularly, but if you play it slow, you see the Statue of Liberty falling over almost like a tree. And it even makes the sound of a tree breaking up. As we can go ahead and play it now. Hold on. You hear the sound, and look how it falls over. You hear that? It sounds just like a tree cracking, about to fall over. So let's go ahead and bring it back one more time. And that's basically the definition of 1,503, the number of that, is basically the breaking down of a tree or a tree stump. Because once you cut down a tree, what is left is just a stump. And you can hear the tree noise again. And you can see it's falling over. You see that? Falls over just like that. So very, very interesting how if you have 1,503 days on the last tetrahedral moon that took place. And so far, we didn't have, with these tetrahedral moons, every tetrahedral moon that took place was a huge event in human history, especially with the Jews and the Christians. So this latest tetrahedral moon, we did not have a huge event that took place. It's almost like God postponed any event to take place until this moment in time to give man more time to repent. Because the thing is this, God does not want tribulation to start. He wants man to repent of their sins and to turn to him and to ask Jesus for forgiveness in the name of the Father and basically in the name of the Son and Holy Spirit, and to be born again Christians. God wants as many people to be saved as possible. And if tribulation is possibly to be basically disbanded or cease, in order for that to happen, man has to turn to God. But unfortunately, man will not, and he's very disobedient. Because of that, tribulation must take place. And even Jesus told the Jews that you will not see me again until you say, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." And Jesus told that to the Jews during the time of Passover. And most likely Passover will be the time period when Jesus returns. So now that we have that out of the way, let's go ahead and go back to basically the Olympic colors. And we'll go back to, in the next video, more astronomical events and how they could relate to or be a sign of things basically to come. And we'll do that in the next video, especially with the relations with gold and silver and how that could be basically added onto our reasoning, how this all could take place. So let's go ahead and go back. So I'm going to go ahead and play it now, and while this song is playing, I'm going to point out key subliminal messages in this song by the powers that be, and also the clock and how the clock represents all the other clocks that we have shown previously before. Let's go ahead and play it. Now in this song, I'm going to try to skip over a lot of parts that they curse, and I'm going to try not to miss any subliminal messages that are being shown as well. All right, so let's go ahead and start from the very beginning. Now in the beginning of the song, they're in a store, and they're talking about basically conspiracy theories. So right there alone, and it's interesting because the song has nothing to do with what they're talking about, But the powers that be give these people these scripts, these music artists these scripts for a reason. And basically, the powers that be are basically making fun of us because we are aware of what they're doing. And we're a very small minority, so they're making fun of us and they're calling us out. And I'll go ahead and show you this.
Yeah, you always forget your wallet.
Hear their conversation.
Yeah, man. That's how you get niggas to pay for your shit.
Nah, nigga.
I got extra flaming hot.
Had that ass on fire, right? Bro.
And when they walk out, and their conversation is going to go right into conspiracy theories next, but when they walk out, you can see PM. And the reason why they have the time period PM, you know, you have AM and then you have PM, which is afternoon, is I believe PM will be the time period when the catastrophes start to take place. And there's a reason why they have PM here. It's almost like the start of things, or the start of the time period.
Swear to God, they overcharged me,
How
bro.
much they charge you?
Bro, like $20. You got 2 bags of shit.
Bro, and they seen this chain and they went crazy. What you still drinking Arizona's? We rich.
Now hear what he
That's a nut
says.
buster.
What you talking about,
They'll
bro?
kill your sperm count. You ain't never heard of that?
Who told you that? Your mama?
Yes.
They're
everybody know
talking about
God.
conspiracy now.
Bro, if they really cared about us, they wouldn't put so much
They really
pollution
cared
in
about it.
there.
They're talking about
You
the
know what I'm
government.
saying? They would teach us about meditation. They wouldn't put so much fried food around us. You know what I'm saying? Because I heard even this, you know, it mess up your sperm count.
That's what I just said. Bro, you berserk.
You see that? So they're pointing out, like, it's funny because they have them talk about a conversation of conspiracy theories. It's almost like the powers that be are basically calling us out and basically making fun of us.
And it dries you out.
So you have a little child basically come up in front of them, and throughout the whole song and the videos, each kid is wearing different colors, and they're very similar to basically the Olympic colors, if not similar, the exact same. And remember, when these catastrophes take place, basically each color has a definition of each different continent. Okay, so let's go and go back to the video. And she has a little juice box that she's gonna have behind her, and this juice box, it has a eye, almost like an all-seeing eye. So right there alone, we already have our first subliminal message that this is a satanic, video. Okay, let's go and play it.
What's up, cutie pie?
Or have satanic subliminal messages. You see that? Like the all-seeing eye. You see it?
How you doing? You good? You straight?
And she throws it on the ground. When it ignites, the color that explodes is basically red. It's almost like, just like in, even though we know November 11th didn't happen, it doesn't mean, like, the location of the start of the catastrophes will most likely start in the United States. After it starts in the United States, then it'll expand across the globe in different locations with the catastrophes. Just like in the beginning of this video, when she explodes the little juice box and it turns red, that's a simple little message that's showing us that the catastrophes, when they start, will start here in the red, which is basically America. See that? So let's go and go back and watch it. See that? Now I'm gonna try my best to pass the cursing without basically passing subliminal messages either.
Wow.
All right, so I'm gonna pass this scene here because they do curse a lot in this portion here. In this scene here, they have colorings of throughout the street, and it's so obvious what they're basically trying to tell us, because no trash can is basically all green like this. At least that what I seen. Also, especially with the truck, you have the truck being almost like in the form of a yellow substance. You say like a very light orange, almost borderline yellow. And then you have the green here, and we can go back and look at the green. You see that? So basically, they're showing us different colors of where catastrophes are going to be hit, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead and play it again. Okay, so you have a child popping up from the tires. And when he's popping up from the tires, you see the colorings of the tires as well. Just like the Olympic colors. You see that? You have the black, the green, the red, and so forth. And even him's wearing red himself. Let me see if I can fast forward a little bit. And even some of the kids in the background, you see the different colors. You have yellow, you have red, and you have the blue. You also have the green trash can. So basically every color of basically the Olympic colors. Now, let me go ahead and go back. And the reason why I'm going to go back is because it also shows his watch. You see that? Now, his watch is very telling. The reason why his watch is very telling, because you have red, you have blue, you have yellow, you have white, and you also have green. And you have possibly, if I'm not mistaken, that could be almost black or like a dark color of black. You see that? So basically all the Olympic colors is all shown throughout this theme of this song. And we're going to go to the portion where he talks about counting down to Doomsday. So this lets us know that this song is talking about the catastrophes, the multi-catastrophes that the Illuminati or the powers that be are basically subliminally showing us. This song is basically subliminally pointing to that the events are going to take place very soon. Let's go ahead and play it. Now, I don't know if it's going to be November 9th. It could be, but these events will happen very, very soon. Possibly either this year or sometime next year.
Yeah. Oh, bitch.
I'm going to go ahead and fast forward. Now, the children, they're chasing after him. And there's one child that basically is slumped over, pouring out a juice. And the reason why this is important to see is because of this. And remember, like I told you before, New York City is going to get hit with a wave. And that is subliminally shown. And we also talk about in my last previous videos. And what's interesting here is that you see that there's a city here. And you also see wave. You see that? Wave. And you have a city that looks very, very similar to New York City. Also, the coloring that the child is wearing is red, yellow, green, and blue. And now, where's black? Now, black is in this as well. And the black is what the coloring of the substance that the child is pouring out. And also, black represents Africa. So let's go ahead and see it. You see that? You see that? So black is also there. So you have all the colors of the Olympic colors. Now, what's very interesting is that you see wave here. It's pretty obvious here. Also, when the child is pouring it out, it's moving out almost like a wave. And let me see if I can show you. I got to put it in slow motion because it moves really, really fast. You see that? You see the blue? Almost like a wave coming in. Very, very interesting. All right, so let me go ahead and take this back off of back to normal. Now, listen to what they're saying before because they're going to fall off an edge. They're using these surfboards to go against the wave. And the wording that they use is very interesting because it points to a lot of stuff that is going to happen in the near future. So let's go ahead and play it. Sorry about that. I'm trying to skip over these curse words. Let me move it a little bit up a little bit more. Okay. So listen to what one of the individuals say. You hear that? He talks about New Year's Eve. That his stuff is shining just like the ball that's dropped on New Year's Eve. And you have to remember when these catastrophes take place, it's going to be a span of a few months before, or a couple months before tribulation takes place. And if it starts in November, we will get to New Year's Eve or the New Year, going through catastrophes. So let's go ahead and play it some more. You hear that? So she counts down to the D, and she'd be like 5, 4, 3. Now he's counting down to the D. Now it makes it seem like he's talking about something sexual, with the woman's talking about something sexual when he raps it. He's not. The D is also another representation for Doomsday. So let me go ahead and rewind it back, and you can hear what they say again. You hear that? Countdown to the D should be like 5, 4, 3. Almost like catastrophe is about to start. And they fall down, and when they fall down, there's a clock that shows up, which is basically the Big Ben clock. And based off a lot of movies that took place in the past, with basically, I think it was G.I. Joe with Paris, and also other movies as well. Big Ben and Paris, and even Tokyo, are going to be primary targets right after America gets hit. America will be the first one, though, based off of what the subliminal messages are showing us throughout the song. So let's go ahead and play some more. You see that? So we can go back. You see the clock? Now, what's fascinating about this clock is that on this clock, when you digest this clock and really study it, you see that in the middle of the clock that really pops out is Jacob and Company. You see that? CO dot, which stands for company. Now, what they subliminally mean by this is that Jake, Jacob is also known as Israel. Jacob was basically back in the Old Testament, which basically was the individual that God had granted to basically kick off the offspring of Israel itself with the 12 tribes. And that's why it says Jacob and company, because when the catastrophes basically take place, tribulation will start, but tribulation has another term or another terminology that they use in the Bible, and it basically means Jacob's trouble. That's basically what that means, and that's the reason why they have this here, because this is the time period when that's about to start for Jacob's trouble, almost like Israel's trouble. You see that? Because Jacob's offsprings are going to go through some rough times, which is the 12 tribes of Israel, also the world as a whole. And what's interesting is that the formation of the clock, and just like we talked about before, showing subliminal messages with this clock, especially on pills and automobiles with Chris Brown, and also other clocks that show the exact same time period with the hour hand, the minute hand, especially in Let's Start World War III as well. This clock is exactly the same, very similar. This is a little off, and there's a reason why it's a little off, because this song is basically telling us that time is not quite ready yet. And this individual here even holds on to the minute hand, almost like trying to slow it down from Doomsday basically starting. So let's go ahead and play some more, and then we can go and see some more subliminal messages here. Just trying to pass over because I don't want to land on some more curse words. Hold on. Oh, let me show you this part. All right. Another thing is when the dust comes in, there's a dust that comes in. It's almost like an explosion that takes place. And this is another subliminal message that Big Ben in the UK will be hit. A portion of the UK will be hit. And you can see the explosion when it takes place. And you can see here, hold on. Bam, you see that? Big explosion that takes place. So we can even continue on. So he holds on to the minute hand, almost like trying to slow it down before the time draws near for the catastrophes. And when this minute hand starts to get closer to this position, it looks exactly similar, very, very similar, if not the same, to all the other clocks that are being shown in other subliminal messages. Just like the combined disasters, the pills and automobiles from Chris Brown, the Let's Start World War III, and it goes on and on and on. And another thing is that what I realize is this. This is another fascinating thing. Oops, let me back out of this real quick. Hold on. Why did not? Hold on. Give me 1 second. Hold on. I'm probably gonna have to back out this whole thing. You know, when I'm using this website here to calculate my dates on on certain dates to see if they land on one another, biblically speaking, when I'm using biblical time points, I just realized something. And what I realized is that they're not only showing a clock here, but they're also showing the transition of Mercury here. And we're going to talk about that in the next video with the astronomical rarities that are going to take place during the month of November, and how this could tie into signs that God is giving us for catastrophes drawing near. But what's interesting is that I saw up here, and you see the clock here, very, very similar to basically all the other clocks that we have seen. You see that? The hour hand and the minute hand. It makes you wonder, because some of these websites, it makes you question where their legion is placed. This could be a coincidence how they have this clock like this, but very, very odd how they match up like that to other subliminal messages that are being shown throughout different subjects. And even if you go back here, let me see if I got to bring it back a little bit so we see his clock. Let me play it real quick. There you go. So you see the hour hand here, and the only reason why this minute hand is not up here is because he's trying to slow it down from Doomsday starting. But if you go back to that website, just like I showed you, which is time and date, you see the hour hand is very similar to the hour hand here. The only thing that's missing is the minute hand being up here. And you can go back here. You see that? Very, very weird. So it makes you wonder about a lot of these websites that you research on. You know what I mean? the enemy is basically everywhere. It's a little ridiculous how the enemy has such a foothold in so many subjects. All right, so let's go ahead and play it again. I believe that we're almost done. I just want to show you one more thing. Hold on. Yeah, I think we're almost done. I'm gonna stop it up to here, so I'm gonna play the rest. Hopefully they don't curse, because we got the majority of this song out of the way, and we get the gist that they're pointing to the Olympic colors, also the catastrophes as well. So let's go ahead and play it.
Shake that booty, I know it's little, but you need.
So you need.
Back that thing up on my nigga from the D.
Oh, that's me. Okay, back out the hearse. They try.
Also, hear what he says because he says something that is very telling, almost like a doomsday speech, and he's going to go ahead and say it soon. But also, the big thing about this whole song is that it has a date. They actually give us a date. Now, this date could be resembled, it is most likely resembled in the Jewish calendar date. And the reason why I say that is because the clock is referencing Jacob's trouble, which means they're referencing a Jewish time period. And if they're referencing a Jewish time period, we're going to be using the Jewish calendar, not the Gregorian calendar. Which this date could be showing two separate time points. It could be showing either December or November. And the reason why I state this is because November Chesvan is the 8th month in our Gregorian calendar time period, referencing the Jewish count time period of November. The 8th month of Chesvan lands in November. So it could be saying Chesvan 8, which is November 8, on the 9th day, which is also time period when the sun enters in scale Libra, the scales, on 2019. Or it could be referencing the 8th day on December. You see that? 2019. So it's either or. But I am leaning more towards November 9th of being the time period. And hopefully I am going to be right. We have 2 more days left, and hopefully, or 1 day left, I believe. Hopefully, all the symbolic messages that I'm reading into, and also the scriptures and astronomy and so forth, they are all tying to this one Pacific date. Hopefully, I'm going to be right about this. And again, I was wrong many times in the past, but it's tough. It's very, very tough. So let's go ahead and play it.
Got the church. Niggas say my name, okay, they ask for the words. Me and A said preacher better back on the verse. Hit boy on the beat, so bitch, you gotta go berserk.
Okay, so listen to what he says. He says it right here. He says, "Kill them one by one." You can hear him, and that's the whole plan of the powers that be. They, especially on the Georgia, I think it's called Georgia time stones. Is it? I think so. But basically, the powers that be want to depopulate the population massively, so they have more of a control over the people. So let's go and listen to what he says again.
Bitch, you gotta go berserk. Kill them off one by one, final destination.
You hear that? Kill them off one by one. Final destination. You hear that?